Alright, welcome back to Let's Do Something, where today we're doing a little bit of something. So, a change up from the truck. This is a 2009 HHR, and we're going to be putting a new alternator in it, which on these it's a little easier said than done. So what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through it, and hopefully it'll help one of y'all somewhere out there. So without over talking, we're going to get right into it. Alright, so the hood prop's messed up, so we got a pipe there, but we ain't going to talk about that. So, but the alternator is, I don't know if you can see it, it's so bright out here. The alternator is right down there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take off this top cover, and we're going to take this out of the front so we can get up in there, and we're going to swap it out. So, let's get to it. Alright, so we took off this black box. It pops up in the back. It's got these little rubbers that hang onto these studs. You just grab it at the back half and pop it up. And once you raise it up, you can see there's a hose clamp here. If you raise it up at an angle, it's like pull it up at an angle, and you can get in there to undo the hose clamp, which the screws there on the bottom. Alright, so now that we got that out of the way, the next thing we got to do is we're going to take this off on both sides, which there's two holders. We're going to take off the bolts for each holder, and then we're going to hopefully be able to tilt the radiator and the condenser and everything for the AC forward, so that way we can get in there with our tools in order to pull the alternator up out of that hole. We're going to try to bring it out through the front, and there's sirens, so I'll be back to you in a minute. Alright, the other thing we're going to do just to make this a little easier, as you can see, the hood release is coming down out in front of the radiator. We're going to go ahead and pull the hood release out of the way, so that way we can get everything pulled up forward and out of our way, give ourselves plenty of room to do what we're doing. And that's really the biggest thing with any project you're doing. Just make sure you give yourself all kinds of room. It just makes things a lot easier, and you'll thank yourself in the end. Something I forgot to mention about this hood latch is it's 3 10mm bolts, which these are also 10mm. These, the holders for the radiator and everything. Alright, once you got all of that out of the way, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull this top radiator hose, and we're going to try to get away with only pulling the top hose, so that way we don't drain all the fluid. Then after that, we're going to see if we can get down in there to it. So what we're going to do, sorry, I'm trying to do all this one-handed for y'all. What we're going to do, just take you a pair of pliers on the clamp. Hang on. Squeeze the clamp, start to pull it back. Shit. Alright, I can't do this one-handed. We'll be back. Alright, so we got everything loose. We pulled this top radiator hose off the block and off the radiator. We've got the radiator where we can pull it forward. And then I took off the puke tank, or the overflow reservoir. And that is just another 10mm bolt that's right here in the fan shroud, right on top. You do all that, and now there's plenty of room to get down in here and get to the radiator. The only other thing we gotta find is the tensioner pulley, so we can put slack in the belt to pull everything off. And once we get that, we'll be golden. Alright, the bolts on your alternator are a 13mm. So we're going to get those, but first things first, you want to get in here and undo this plug, which it's just a crimp plug. You squeeze it on the back end. Let me get this thing to focus here. You squeeze it right here on the back part, and it raises up the clip, and then you just pull it back. And then down here, there's a rubber. You pull the rubber off, or the cover, whatever you want to call it. It helps keep the terminals from corroding. Once you get that off, you should have a power wire. And before you disconnect the power wire, you want to disconnect the positive terminal on the battery, just to keep from grounding anything out. Which this here should be another 13 millimeter right there. You just pull that rubber topper off, and that exposes that. Once you get that off, pull your alternator bolts, and you're ready to go. But like I said, make sure you disconnect the positive terminal of the battery beforehand. Alright, so we've got to where we have the alternator out. But something I was going to tell you is there are 3-volt bolts. There's 2 on the top and 1 on the bottom. That's something I forgot to mention. And your tensioner, as you come in here under the fender well and you look through this hole towards the top of the fender well, and that bolt in there, that's your tensioner. You just loosen it, and then it gets to the point to where you can take the belt on and off by hand from above. Alright, so we got the alternator back in. See it down there. We couldn't find the one for this motor exactly. This is the 2.4, but the one for the alright, this is the 2.4 liter. The one for the 2.0 is the same exact alternator. So that is something that might help y'all out. We got it back in, and all you have to do is loosen the tensioner up. Like I said, loosen that bolt in it, which is through the hole in the fender well. And anyways, get everything put back on. Put the belt on the alternator before you bolt it up. And then once you obviously bolt it up, start putting everything back. And just literally put it back together the same way you took it apart. Make sure you put your thing back on, which is the 3 bolts that we took out. Put your holders on, which is the 2 right here that go in the black clips. Get all that, put your wheel back on, put your inner fender well cover back on, and you'll be ready to rock. Alright, so let's do something. As you can see, we got it all back together. And remember, anytime you're doing anything as far as customer project, know them or not, if you see something wrong with it when you're taking it apart, fix it. Leave it better than you found it. But like I say, we swapped out the alternator on this. We got that done. We got everything back together. And so thank you all for watching. That's changing an alternator on a HHR 2.4 liter. Remember, it's let's do something, where we do a little bit of something all the time. Like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends. And we'll see you on the next one.